Oh, hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, depending on which part of this beleaguered country that you're in. I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. You're watching Rebel Roundup, Rebel News' daily news and opinion show. Now, normally on Mondays, I'm joined by my co-host, David Menzies, but he is off on yet another David Menzies caper. Wish him well. Let's all hope the police don't get called. And that means that I am hosting the show by myself. Now, when I host the show by myself, I think I get as tired listening to myself as you all must. So we usually do a pretty clip heavy show when it's me. And then I just react to them, which is, I think, best for everybody. But before we get into the show, I'll tell you how you can get involved. And I will politely ask you to get involved because the more you have to say, the less I have to say. So if you are watching us on Rumble, that's an excellent free speech platform. If you want to support the work that we're doing here at Rebel News to change the culture, to change politics, and to try to make this country a better place in whatever form it may resemble months from now, you can leave a Rumble rant. That's their paid chat over there. If it's over the $5 US cutoff, we're reading it on air. If it's under that, we'll do our very best, time permitting. And we ask for this because we'll never take a penny from the government to do the work that we do. And how could we? You would just look at us skeptically now. You can always tell the news agencies that take the government money. You really can. If you know, you know. And if you didn't already, boy, CBC just screams it in your face. And if you are watching us on YouTube, where certain things are still censored over there, but we are remonetized. If you want to leave a super chat, that's their paid chat. Same rules apply with the $5 US cutoff. There is also another way for you to support the show. Let's say you feel bad for me having to host by myself and talk to myself with my dog under the desk and the cat lurking over there ready to come in. And you just want to, give Sheila a little reprieve. You can leave a paid comment called a super thanks. So that's it. Let's get into the news of the day. It's June 1st, 2026. And for those of you who are in the know, of course, June kicks off the month where we celebrate the Sacred Heart of Jesus in the Catholic Church and the compassion of Christ and his suffering and sacrifice. But for the poison dart frog people of the world, it is Pride Day. There's the Liberal Party wishing us all a happy Pride. So what used to be just a parade on a day turned into Pride Month, and then Pride Season, which is, of course, the season formerly known as Canada, or as summer here in Canada. I'm just getting ready to be inundated with rainbow propaganda. I'm sure you guys all are, including one of the things that I hate the most about Pride season. And that is watching, and I'm not going to say police officers because it's not them. It's the police brass, the political police brass who all want to be the next Bill Blair or the next Myron Demke. They're all debasing themselves by raising flags. We've got one from the Toronto police wishing everybody a happy Pride, which doesn't end, which takes up the whole summer. They say we proudly stand as allies with the 2SL, pardon me, GBTQI+. We forgot intersex and questioning there, you guys. Bigots. Individuals, while recognizing the importance of continuing to build trust and understanding and inclusion. We're grateful for the ongoing collaboration. Okay. These are the defund the police people, by the way, just so you know. Let's watch their little video. If there's a video there that we all have to suffer through, let's watch it.
Thank you. Welcome to Toronto Police Headquarters. Thank you for being here this morning to raise the Progress Pride flag as we get ready to kick off Pride Month. At a time when tensions are high and we're seeing signs of intolerance and hatred, it is more important than ever that we stand together united. Over the past years, we have made real progress in building trust between Toronto Police Service and the 2S LGBTQI+ communities, and we're committed to continuing that work.
As the Progress Pride flag is raised here, alongside unit commanders across the service, doing the same at each division, it stands as a visible and shared commitment. It reflects our responsibility to better support our 2S LGBTQI+ communities and members, to build trust with queer and trans communities we serve, and to continue to build a culture of respect and inclusion. The Progress Pride flag itself speaks to that ongoing effort, signaling both inclusion and the need for stamina to continue the fight.
Oh. Seeing the Pride Progress flag, I believe that one is called, because the old flag wasn't good enough. Wasn't as inclusive. It didn't encompass everybody in that ever-growing acronym, which should at some point just include tomboys, and then I guess I'll be in the LGBTQ plus AI community unwittingly, but I've never seen it smudged before by an elder. That's a new one, with the eagle feather and the smudging and then smoking of the peace pipe. I don't think this is helpful at all. The reason that I dislike this so much is that justice is supposed to be blind. That people are supposed to be subject to the laws of the land, regardless of their proclivities or their color, ethnicity. But that's not what we're seeing in Toronto at all. And this is just divisive. First of all, just fly a Canadian flag. Apparently that's supposed to represent all of us. Albertans are increasingly feeling like it doesn't. But this is divisive, that the police are rallying around this very special community. Meanwhile, real hate and intolerance of the criminal sort running amok on the streets of Toronto. For example, we've got this next video. It's almost as if the police in Toronto have better things to do with their time, because we've got this video from Toronto where the person who posted it said, "It's perfectly acceptable to protest in front of a Jewish seniors' home under approval and protection of the TPS." This is from our friend Karima. "If you get anywhere close to them, you'll be swiftly met with physical punishment and arrest." So let's watch this together. I haven't seen the full clip. It's my understanding that when the protesters who are in front of the seniors' home are approached, then the people who are approaching the people saying, "Please don't bother the Grammies and grandpas who are spending their golden years inside these buildings," those people get arrested? Is that how this goes? Let's watch.
Unfortunately, this building here is under the name of Ben-I Birth. Ben-I Birth is like the attack crocodile of the Zionist entity, the Zionist lobby, CJA. They've done so many cruel things, but they try to sugarcoat their stuff with schools and, senior homes. I don't know what this building is, but Ben-I Birth, whenever I see that and I see those boxes where people donate, I can't believe people donate there. People need to be educated, and they should not drop anything inside that box. No donations to that apartheid system in any way they're supposed to do.
The police guarding these people. Imagine you're in your senior's home and these people, these anti-Semite losers, are outside with the images of the Ayatollahs on a sign. He admits he doesn't even entirely know what Ben-I Birth does. He just knows that it's Jewish. And so for him, it must be bad. And so he's there. Imagine if there was an elderly Holocaust survivor in there looking out the window. Police should be hustling these assholes along. Sorry for swearing. I just find it so despicable that they're, elderly Jewish people in there just trying to spend their golden years playing crib and working on their crochet projects. And they've got these anti-Semites with a megaphone on the streets. And what is TPS doing? Just riding their bikes. Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow stands with the Muslim community. She had a little video about it the other day, dressed in her full regalia. There she is. Israel now is asking her to join the Walk with Israel. I'm old enough to remember a couple of years ago where she skipped the menorah lighting for Hanukkah because it was just a little bit too controversial. But this is not controversial, I guess, to her to be dressed in full. Islamic garb and wishing everybody Eid Mubarak.
Well, Eid Mubarak. And we are celebrating Eid and wishing the light be everywhere in the community, to your household. And secondly, we have formally recognized Bengal Town. Bengal Town is a recognition of the Bengali community, of the culture, the heritage, the values, and of course, the language, the food, and all that it has provided for Toronto. So it's a formal recognition. And the third thing I want to say is that Islamophobia has no place in Toronto. We will fight it not just with words but with deeds. Zero tolerance. We are teaching our children to respect every faith. We are teaching young people to have less hatred but more love and more compassion. You will notice that the crime rate, especially for young people, has fallen.
That's enough chow for me. I want to correct myself. She didn't skip the menorah lighting. She skipped the Independence Day, the Israeli Independence Day flag raising, because she said it was too controversial. But then she like slunk in and out like a snake from the menorah lighting. So she said she called the flag raising day divisive, but these people have no problem going to the very divisive Pride Progress flag raising, or going to, like a Chinese event, even though China still has concentration camps for religious minorities, including Muslims, by the way, who seem to be a friend of hers. So, I mean, this is all a bit rich. She should be at the Walk for Israel. She most definitely won't be, because she is a coward. And she is the NDP mayor there. So we know how the NDP feel about the state of Israel. Their MPs and their MLAs frequently walk in Nakba Day marches, which is what they call the Independence Day of Israel. They call it the catastrophe. Let's go. Israel Now again. Shabbat Synagogue in Guelph was targeted by Hamas protesters. Again, I want to say that the police in the GTA and across Ontario writ large have better things to do than attending pride flag raisings. But the synagogue in Guelph was targeted by Hamas supporters with death-threatening graffiti on Shabbat. It says, "Death to genocidal Israel." So again, these people who say that this is strictly only about Israel's foreign policy or the Israel-Palestine problem, dispute, whatever you want to call it, then why are you targeting synagogues in Hamilton? If it's not just regular old anti-Semitism, let's just call it what it is. Why are you targeting synagogues half a world away unless it's really about just targeting Jews? You're not down at the consulate. You're at the church. You're at the seniors' home. Let's not pretend this. I think everybody understands hatred. It's the lies about the motivation for the hatred that I have a problem with, and the media is just so happy to run with it. We've got another story on one of the big problems plaguing our country right now, and that is judges handing out reduced sentences or completely absent sentences to people with precarious, let's call it, immigration status. Where these guys can beat their wives, molest children, drive through a stop sign and kill most of a hockey team. And they will either fight their deportation, or the judge will fight their deportation for them by giving them a sentence that doesn't render them deportable. And I think if you violate the laws of a country, even if it is lightly, before you are a citizen, get out. Get. We don't need people who can't follow our rules here. We already have enough of those people who are already here. We don't need more. So this is no jail for a Tunisian national for cruel and violent domestic assault. The judge acknowledged the sentence was unlikely to satisfy the victim. Well, thanks. Who likely continues to suffer some consequences of the crime. Do we want to keep reading? I would like to see the consequences of these crimes, but I only have the paywalled version on my laptop, and I know that we have the other version. Olivia, if you wouldn't mind, bring up the article. S'il vous plaît, in both languages. It's my moment of federalism there. I said it in both languages. But it seems to me that every day we've got a story like this. A Tunisian national living in Quebec has received a conditional discharge and 3 years probation. So if he doesn't break the law for 3 years, he doesn't have a criminal record. For a violent domestic assault and subsequent harassment. So this wasn't like a crime of passion. They were in a heated argument, not to say that this is fine to do, but had an argument and, you know, somebody got shoved or somebody had a vase thrown at them or whatever. This is after the fact criminal harassment of the victim of the domestic assault. And the judge admitted it was lenient and unlikely to satisfy the victim. Okay, hang on. Mohammed Aziz Ben Ishaq arrived in Canada a year earlier as a temporary resident. Oh, he's temporary. So here's the thing. He's not even a permanent resident on the pathway to become a citizen. This guy's a temporary resident. So he's either visiting or a temporary foreign student or a temporary worker. So we don't have to, even the judge's motivations don't make sense to me here because he was never meant to stay. So why are we making it easier for him to stay? By re-victimizing the victim. He attacked Fatma Abada because she had lit a cigarette before nightfall during Ramadan on April 30th, 2021. So he's a religious extremist too. So she lit a cigarette before nightfall, before the end of the day during Ramadan, which would have violated religious laws. You sin, and I might pray for you. I might, we might even have a bake sale for you. But to physically attack you and then subsequently harass you down the road, that's not something us extremist Orthodox Christians do. He kicked her in the ribs. She contacted a friend by phone, but he took it, pushed her to the ground, and punched her repeatedly in the head. He grabbed the lit cigarette and put it out on her forearm while continuing to kick her. Let's keep going, Olivia. Thank you. Let's see if we can get a little bit more. Let's keep scroll. Okay, can you go up? Let's just detail some of the criminal harassment this woman was subject to that this judge thought he should skate from. Go up, go up, go up. Okay. Nope. Okay. He dragged her by the hair into the apartment's entryway. She broke free. He attacked her again, striking her in the head. So this is like an ongoing violent assault. I'm sure she thought her life was in jeopardy. How could she not have? When police arrived, she refused to give a statement and said she did not wish to press charges. I bet she didn't. The police left. They left and came back after subsequent calls from Abada and her friend and arrested Ishaq. Why did they not take him away right then? She was obviously very visibly beaten. He put a cigarette out on her arm and beat her relentlessly. He was released the following day. Oh, probably on conditions to behave himself, right? Keep the peace, be of good behavior. He sure didn't. So now we are expecting him to follow the new lenient sentence. Said not to communicate with her or her friend, be in their presence, or go to their places of work or study. But Ishaq breached those conditions, eventually meeting Abada in a park and going to her workplace, contacting her by phone and sending her text messages. He was arrested again. This should be like this is criminal harassment now. And my problem with this news story, my friends at the National Post, is the judge is named like several paragraphs down. He is as much the story as what's happening here. Court of Quebec Justice Patrick Simon said the assaults committed by the offender are neither trivial or minimal. Far from it. Then why did he sentence them as though they were? They demonstrate a high degree of violence, manifesting itself repeatedly in various forms, multiple kicks to the body, including to the ribs, snatching the cell phone from the victim's hand. So she was trying to call for help. He took her phone so she couldn't. Punches to the head, hair pulling to drag the victim. Further, he wrote several blows were inflicted to the head, a particularly vulnerable part of the body. Yeah, she could have been seriously injured. The use of the cigarette. Sorry, no, gotta go down, Olivia. The use of the cigarette to burn the victim's forearm constitutes a cruel act. Thank you. More deliberate than the blows and insidious, and it aims to inflict acute pain and leave a lasting mark on the victim. All true. And he also dismissed Ishak's attributing some of the responsibility for his actions to the irritability of Ramadan fasting. My lord. People who know me know that I intermittently fast. I normally don't eat during the day, but I also fast for Lent. Could you imagine me saying, I'm sorry, officer, I haven't had a steak in 40 days. Please excuse my violent outburst in Costco because the line went to the back of the store. But yet this judge sentenced him in such a way that he will get to stay in the country with his victim, when the one thing that could probably bring her some peace is knowing that this guy is far the F away from her. Not just re-victimizing her with the sentence, but re-victimizing her by allowing her attacker to stay in the country, when what would keep her safe from him is to keep him out of the country. It's appalling. That judge's name should have been in the first paragraph. Should have been in the sub-headline. Actually, I'd love to put it in the headline. Justice Paul Simon, was that his name? Paul Simon? Gives David Simon, sorry. Justice David Simon gives violent attacker slap on the wrist so that he could stay in the country. That should be the headline. That's the problem with the courts in this country right now. One more before we hit an ad break. Montreal man tied to Al-Qaeda who threatened to bomb the metro pleads guilty. Oh God, we already start with sympathizing for him. Is he a Canadian resident? Yes, he is, of Somali origin. Oh, great. The lawyer for an unhoused man, let's call him transient, but why are we leading off with the fact that he is homeless? Is that to invoke sympathy for me? Because I have none. The lawyer for an unhoused man had previously attended Al-Qaeda training camps, said his client pleaded guilty in Montreal to threatening to carry out an attack on the city's public transit system. Len Waxman stated Mohammed Abdullah Wassami had also admitted to calling a Passport Canada office from his place of detention and threatening to throw it up. So he was in jail and he was uttering threats to the passport office. Now look, if you've tried to use the passport office, you might have had those feelings inside of you. The anger. Yeah, just the anger. But like calling the passport office from jail and threatening to blow it up. In a joint statement of facts filed with the courts, Wassami told a social worker at Old Brewery homeless shelter in Montreal he wanted to kill 1 million people by blowing up trains and subways with bombs. This Canadian citizen of Somali origin had previously pleaded guilty in Minnesota to providing material support to the terrorist organization Al-Qaeda. Why is he in the country? So he was in Minnesota, convicted of terrorist-related offenses in Minnesota in 2009. Minnesota has a Somali terrorist problem. Comes to Canada, somehow ends up with citizenship, or maybe he had citizenship before and they deport. Now the Americans probably saw that he was a citizen, deported him back here. My Lord. And so what? We should all be surprised that he's doing this again. The only thing that will surprise me is if this guy gets jail time. According to the plea agreement reached in that case, the Minnesota case, he traveled to Afghanistan in 2000 to undergo training at Al-Qaeda training camps where he met the organization's founder, Osama bin Laden. This is like an Omar Khadr story all over again. Attorney Waxman stated that his client was homeless and suffered from mental health issues. Noting the Montreal police had initially referred him to mental health services before he was arrested by the RCMP in the psychiatric ward of a hospital in 2025. The case will be heard again in court in September. So the picture we see of him is actually his booking photo taken by the U.S. Marshals in 2003. That's quite something. How did these people stay in Canada? If we granted him citizenship, like let's say he was a Somali refugee to Canada, we grant him citizenship, and then he goes off to Minnesota, causes terrorism-related offenses there. You know what we should do next time? If he's a naturalized Canadian committing terrorist offenses anywhere, but particularly against what used to be our strongest ally, although Mark Carney feels differently these days, we should revoke his citizenship and send him back to the hellhole from whence he came. But now he's using our citizenship as a cloak around him, and it prevented him from being repatriated by the Americans to the lawless Mad Max landscape of Somali. Yeah, so great. No problems there. Everything's fine. Nothing to worry about. Let's hit an ad break, and then we'll come back on the other side. I also have an ad read, too.
For generations, many Canadians have preserved more than just firearms. They've preserved history, tradition, competition, memories. But under Trudeau, and now Carney, heirlooms, estates, collectibles, and competition firearms now have to be surrendered and destroyed. While violent gun criminals get pass after pass, openly ignoring any legislation, lawful gun owners are trapped in an increasingly unfair legal system. But we can help. Canada's National Firearms Association's Save Firearms program offers the legal pathway to preserve what matters, while we work towards a political solution. Don't let yours be next. Save history. Save heritage. Save firearms. Visit nfa.ca today to learn more.
In Canada, firearms owners like me understand the importance of safe, effective self-defense options. That's why we're proud to have Byrna as a sponsor. Byrna's less lethal launchers are designed to help protect you and your family without taking a life. Byrna offers peace of mind, accessibility, and a practical layer of personal security for Canadians who value safety. Learn more at byrna.ca/rebel. That's byrna.ca/rebel.
Canada's been told to just quit smoking for decades, same message over and over, and yet millions of Canadians still smoke. So let's ask a follow-up question. For those who don't quit, what about change? In 2026, Canada has options that didn't exist years ago. Smoke-free alternatives for adults who would otherwise continue smoking. That doesn't mean risk-free, it means informed choice. If you don't smoke, don't start. If you smoke, quit. But for those who don't quit, change could still be part of the conversation. That's why Canadians should check out unsmoke.ca, an information resource focused on smoke-free alternatives and honest facts, not judgment. Put the lighter down, Canada. Learn what your options are.
Each year, independent journalists break the stories that matter most. They expose corruption, challenge powerful institutions, and report the stories legacy media too often ignore. Now it's time to recognize that work. I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. I'm the president of the Independent Press Gallery, and I'm inviting you to join us for the IPG Awards Luncheon on Sunday, August 30th, 2026, for an afternoon celebrating excellence in independent journalism from around the world. Held as part of the Democracy Fund's Student Journalism Conference, the IPG Awards shine a spotlight on fearless reporting in video, written, and investigative journalism. This isn't about giant, well-funded, taxpayer-subsidized corporate newsrooms. It's about the freelancers filing stories from their kitchen tables at midnight, the documentary filmmakers chasing truth with no safety net, the independent reporters keeping democracy alive one story at a time. And this year, there's more than just recognition on the line. Each category features cash prizes, including $1,000 for first place and $500 for second place. Submissions are open now, but the deadline to enter is May 25th. So don't wait until the last minute panic and coffee-fueled regret kicks in. If you're an independent journalist, editor, filmmaker, publisher, student journalist, or simply someone who believes in press freedom, this event is for you. The IPG Awards Luncheon takes place Sunday, August 30th at 12 at the Novotel North York in Toronto. Submit your work, apply to attend, or grab your tickets today. Find out more at independentpressgallery.com because independent journalism deserves its own stage. All right, we're back. Let's cover just a few things on the Alberta Western Independence Beat. You guys know Tuesdays and Wednesdays we talk more about that because I have my best friend with me, Lise Merle, who is also a Western separatist. And on Wednesdays we have the Buffalo panel where we bring in other people too to talk about issues facing Western Canada, and not just on the Independence Beat. And I realize that many of you out there maybe don't feel the same way I do as about independence. But I do appreciate the fact that you do hear us out. And if there are other arguments to offer to me, especially if you're on X and you are hate watching me right now, if there are other arguments that you have other than to just call me old or the B word or the C word, I would appreciate hearing from you because those are not convincing me. Thank you. Anyway, one of my favorite MLAs, Dan Williams, here in Alberta, the compassionate care initiative that we have in Alberta for drug addicts to ramp up treatment beds and to snatch our mentally ill drug addicts off the street and send them to treatment before they kill somebody or themselves. Dan was really one of the key players in getting that going, and full credit to Jason Kenney too. As much as I hate to give him credit for anything, he was really, that was one of the great things that he did, was really say, look what's happening in BC. We're not doing that here. So I say that to preface, this next video from Dan Williams, because I do like the man. And this is why it's important that we can disagree on Western independence and what that looks like without disliking each other. Because I like Dan. I like all the stuff that he's done. But he's come out as a federalist. Makes me sad because I thought he was smarter than that. I'm joking. Dan's a smart guy. But he has come out and said, you know, like it's time to also, guys, federalists, terrible slogan, lead, not leave. I'm going to lead Saskatchewan out of here when I'm done too. So you guys could have picked a better slogan, but he's part of the lead, not leave, which is, I think, the federalist sloganeering that we're going to be just hit with a fire hose by. So let's watch Dan's video.
On October 19th, there's going to be a vote on the future of the province of Alberta. Many Albertans have strong and passionate feelings about this, and I can tell you right now, I'm committing along with Premier Smith and the United Conservative Government to fight for this province within a strong and unified Canada. We have to recognize that so many of the challenges we face today are not just economic in terms of the frustration between Alberta and Ottawa, but are also cultural. And if those who run campaigns intend only to push those frustrated Albertans further, I can tell you they'll have a more divided province and country. But if instead they acknowledge that radical ideology and an attempt to politicize patriotism will end in disaster, and they turn instead to a path of unity that is Canada's history, where proud Albertans, and even those, yes, who are conservative, feel like they belong, well, then I think we have a path forward as a province. And that will be what I'm fighting for.
All right. He's not wrong. But I think a lot of Albertans are past that point. We're past the empty promises from the federal government. So if you want to believe the empty promises from the federal government, okay, fine, Dan, that's okay. If you are more forgiving than me after 120 years of our province being treated that way, that's okay. If you have more faith in Mark Carney than I do, that's okay. But here's what I will say to Dan Williams. I dare you to take that federalist message to Lacrete, where you're from. Because he's the MLA for Peace River, and Lacrete is one of the only real community in this province that decided that we are not going to do what everybody else tells us with COVID restrictions. In fact, they refused, the municipality said, we're not going to let ATCO, the gas company, do any work there. And like the amount of land that is managed by that MD is like the size of several European countries, okay? And they said, ATCO, you cannot come here if you have a vaccine requirement, because we are a no discrimination region up here. No one was ordered to close their businesses. Nobody got policed during Christmas. Municipal buildings didn't have vaccine restrictions. And you know what? And I think it's such an important thing. Lacrete was so far away from Edmonton. It's like the end of the road. It's like 11 hours up there. That nobody bothered them as they conducted this social experiment. And you know what didn't happen? A mass casualty event like they told us would happen if everybody didn't get forced jabbed and you didn't share your private medical information with everyone from the stewardess to the bartender or the guy at the door at the hockey rink. And vaccine uptake there without coercion was around, I think maybe even a little less than 30%. So, you know, like when the Liberals say, oh, you know, like 99% of people got the vaccine, why won't the truckers get it? Well, they were coerced, because if they weren't coerced, then it would only be closer to 30%, less than 1 in 3. And so those are an independent-minded folk up there. That's the moral of my story about the COVID restrictions and the beautiful town of Lacrete, is that these are not people who will be told what to do. These are people who make up their own mind, and these are some of the most independent, conservative, free thinkers, not just in this province and in this country. And I dare you, Dan Williams, to take your message of federalism to the coffee shop in Lacrete. That's all I have to say. Now, I realize you're trying to play both sides, but you do represent the people of Lacrete. I don't expect you to be a separatist, but maybe you're not the man for this job, being the face of the UCP Federalist campaign. You know, that's all I have to say. Howard Anglin. So Howard Anglin was a key advisor to Prime Minister Stephen Harper, well respected in the Conservative movement. I have nothing bad to say about him, except maybe he still has faith in this country that I don't. And he actually sort of sets the right tone for the blast of misinformation and condescension that Westerners are getting from Central and Laurentian elites.
While the separatists don't have answers to most of the key questions about separation, I think there are a lot of people in Central Canada and Ottawa that need to step up and give some answers to the questions Alberta has been asking. Because I don't want to dismiss for a second the grievances that Alberta has raised. And I think one has to always distinguish between Alberta grievances and Alberta separation. One is based on facts. The other is a strategy. I think it's a misguided strategy, but it's a strategy. You alluded to oil and gas. This has been a long-standing problem. The attitude from some in Central Canada, the barely concealed contempt and sometimes the open contempt for the Alberta economy and the way of life in Alberta is something that wouldn't be tolerated with any other province. The vast majority of Albertans, polls show at least 70%, and I would include even more who might vote for separation out of frustration but don't really want to leave Canada at the end of the day. The vast majority of Albertans love Alberta and they love Canada. I'm not sure a lot of people in Ottawa can say the same thing. I know they love Canada, but when they look at Alberta, Albertans at least don't feel a lot of love. So I think it's incumbent upon Central Canada to look at this as a wake-up call, to do things that frankly are not just rewarding the separatist sentiment or the separatist activists, but doing them because they're actually the right thing, both for Alberta and for the Canadian economy.
You are describing the situation that the federal government could, ought in your mind, do things, and potentially in the 5 months we have before this referendum vote? What are those things, and do you have confidence that the Carney Liberals will actually do any of them?
I don't have confidence, but hope springs eternal. Some of them are things that you brought up and mentioned. So increased representation for Alberta, or at least a commitment to increasing the representation of Alberta in the House of Commons. Meaningful action on the laws that are holding back the Alberta energy economy and, frankly, the Canadian energy economy. The Prime Minister has acknowledged that there is a serious problem. He's created a major projects office as an end run around the Trudeau-era laws. But the mere fact that he has to bypass the existing laws or create one-off exceptions to them shows that the laws themselves are the problem. And particularly now, hopefully with Guilbeault out of the caucus, some common sense can return to the Liberal Party, and they can actually make meaningful progress on changing the laws themselves, not just creating end runs around them. Another one would be something that Danielle Smith has asked for, and it's a subject of another referendum question, which will be asked in October, which is more input on the appointment of judges to the Alberta Court of Appeals and the Alberta Court of King's Bench. These are things that can be done. They would at least be indications that somebody in central Canada is paying attention, taking seriously the concerns, and taking concrete steps to actually address some of Alberta's grievances.
Howard Anglin, thank you very much.
Howard's not wrong. Those are all things that would help. But even Howard said, I don't have faith in the Prime Minister to do these things. Right. Me neither. That's why I'm not holding out hope. I don't trust the federal government. I think many Albertans are done trusting the federal government, and he is right when he says there are many Albertans who love Alberta and they love Canada. I just don't want Canada to be my problem anymore. I wish them well. How's that? But can Central Canadians say the same? Many cannot, especially the people who are lecturing us. Can they say, I love Canada and I see Albertans as my fellow Canadians? And I don't think they feel that way about us. I really don't. They think of us as a problem to be managed, not equal partners in Confederation. And the problem is, for these people, a lot of people are waking up to the problem and realizing that there's another way. All right. Thank you, Howard Anglin. Okay. This clip comes from Ryan Garrettson. If you don't follow him on X, I think you should. He says, witness the average Canadian at the beginning of this clip. This is how uninformed they are. So let's watch.
But the drop in price coincides with concerning news. Canada is now in a technical recession. While financial experts debate exactly what that means for the economy, the public is simply alarmed by the word.
I did not hear that yet. I'm surprised. I thought we were doing better than the U.S. anyways. I would expect them to be in a recession.
But as most of us know, it is not just the price of gas that is stressing out consumers. It's the cost of other essentials, including mortgage, rent, car repair bills, and yes, groceries. Out shopping with her young son Fergus and her mother Kathy, Rachel Vass agreed the economy is teetering on the edge.
A little uncertain for sure, but I mean, we can only do what we can do, and everything is increasing as the world changes.
Her retired mother feels fortunate that she can help if finances become a challenge for the next generation. Some of her friends are already doing what they can to help their adult children cover the cost of housing.
The young people can't afford them these days. I mean, are they making enough money to actually afford a mortgage? And the cost of housing, I can't believe it. We were just so lucky when we bought when we did.
Mike Beard is grateful that disability insurance is keeping him housed, even though the extra remains a struggle. Still, he worries about the stresses of others.
I feel sorry for people, for attitude, money, the prices, spending a lot more what they used to.
Back at the gas pumps, Sean Smith is fueling up before resuming his search for a new job. He is taking the word recession in stride.
Well, not that worried about it just yet. I've seen many recessions.
In London, Sean Irvin, CTV News.
The guy at the front at the very beginning when he's like, well, I thought the Americans were doing bad. Why did you think that? Why do you think they're doing poorly? Because you don't like Donald Trump and you think he would, because your feelings about him should dictate how well he is at his job? Is that what maybe you watch too much CBC and their American hate, or maybe you just got like your elbows way up and so you just are just anti-American, but the facts be damned. Just so you understand, Canada's economy is in a recession. It's receding. It's shrinking. The GDP in the United States grew by 1.6% in the first quarter of this year. And it had been growing faster. The spike in gas prices has slowed that down a little. The unemployment rate in Canada for the general population is somewhere around 7%. In the United States, it's 4.3. Under 4 is like functional overemployment, because the unemployment rate takes into, like, you have like a certain percentage of people who are just out of the economy, who don't want to have a job, aren't looking for a job. Under 4%, you almost have overemployment. The S&P in the United States, the S&P 500 is up 25.3% since Trump took office. But these people got a little too much CBC in the bloodstream, and so they know that the orange man is bad. And so he must be doing a bad job. They heard Rosie Barton say it, so it must be true. In the meantime, our economy is shrinking. Theirs is growing. Theirs is staying steady in spite of inflation driven by gas prices, which we Albertans would love to have been able to help you with, but we can't build a pipeline around here. So anyways, thank you, CBC, for misinforming the population. This is how the Liberals keep getting majorities. Well, at least a minority. The majority they stole. Also this on the American front, from the Wall Street Journal. The Trump administration wants automobiles under the USMCA to be at least 50% made in America. So the president's negotiators for the accord with Mexico and Canada to propose half of components and materials come from America. So that would be a major change to the USMCA. The rule would greatly increase the amount of U.S. content required in cars under the USMCA, measured by the dollar value of the components. The pact right now requires 3/4 of the vehicle's materials to come from North American sources, but no U.S. specific targets. So this will be a change. This is going to hurt Oshawa. This is going to probably prompt Doug Ford to say something stupid. But he's telling us what he's going to do. And it didn't have to be this way. We continue to fight. He'll continue to fight us back. Let's look at this from Mark Carney. Remember Mark Carney's sovereignty fund announcement? You know, he thought we're going to be like Norway. We're going to have a sovereign wealth fund. Yeah, well, Norway doesn't, like, Norway allows for oil and gas development. It's not a sovereign wealth fund if you're borrowing to put money into it. Norway puts their offshore oil revenue into the sovereign wealth fund. Here, we're just going to borrow money to put it into this thing for the Liberals to invest with. And you know that the money will go to all their little green crony friends and their little green businesses, as if they already aren't getting subsidies on the other side, many of them from the Green Slush Fund. So we know he's borrowing to put in the sovereign wealth fund. Why? Because we're broke. In fact, they floated the idea that maybe Alberta and Saskatchewan should be forced to give a portion of our oil and gas royalties, which we own, not the federal government, into this sovereign wealth fund, just to, you know, show what good team players we are. We already do that through outsized equalization, but whatever. So this comes to us by way of our friends over at Blacklocks. Carney's sovereign wealth fund will cost $750 million a year just in debt servicing. Our wealth fund, not only do we borrow to put into it, but then we have to pay nearly, well, it is $750 million a year at current interest rates. So they're going to put $25 billion into the Canada Strong Fund. It's not a savings account. That's the key point here. Based on the projected interest rates, and God only knows what those will do, interest costs are estimated to be 750 million annually once the 25 billion is fully deployed. That's a neat way of saying borrowed. The department wrote in a finances response to the Commons Government Operations Committee. Actual interest costs could be higher. Of course they could be. It cautioned this is all subject to change with future interest rate projections. So here's, look, this is what Carney said when he announced it. Here's how it works. He said to reporters, a sovereign wealth fund is essentially a national savings and investment account. It's designed to grow wealth for future generations. Oh, I'll just call my credit card a savings account then, you guys. It's designed to grow for future generations. Ain't that the truth? Many countries are blessed with natural resources like Norway, and they have sovereign wealth funds. Yeah, but they also develop their natural resources. Canada hasn't had one until now. The new Canada Strong Fund will give all Canadians direct stake in building Canada Strong. In Alberta, we have the Heritage Savings Trust Fund. We put money into there. Now, it is a little more difficult for us to save into our Heritage Savings Trust Fund as a province than Norway, because Norway doesn't have Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba, which is the highest welfare recipient province, and I mean by capita, province in the entire country, all of the Maritimes, the East Coast to support. So we get to take what's left and put it into the Heritage Savings Trust Fund. Norway just keeps all of it because they don't have to share with all of the EU. We have to share with our own version of the EU. All right. I hear my cat is stuck in a cupboard somewhere. I hear him scratching, but he'll be good for another 6 minutes. Let's bump ahead to this. From the Globe editorial board, they have said that the Chief Justice of Canada's Supreme Court, Richard Wagner, should recuse himself, having shown bias against the Freedom Convoy. And people have been saying this for a long time. It's just interesting to see the Globe and Mail catch up now twice in a week to reality, which I never thought would happen in my lifetime. I should take this day off next year, June 1st. I'm taking it off next year to celebrate. We'll make it a little personal holiday. 40 years ago, Chief Justice told the Le Devoir that the convoy protests in Ottawa that year were the beginning of anarchy. Now the Supreme Court, including him, is considering whether to hear an appeal from the federal government on those protests. So what we know is the Court of Appeals and another judge, so 4 judges in total, so 3 and then 1, have said that the use of the Emergencies Act against the Freedom Convoy was illegal and unconstitutional. What was happening did not rise to a national emergency that would require extraordinary circumstances and policing powers to deal with. And of course that's true, because who is arrested for terrorism? You think that was a 9/11 level event, Pearl Harbor level event? No. It was, parking violations and street dancing, illegal street dancing, apparently. And no one was charged with terrorism. It was like mischief. Well, mischief is being annoying to the police in a public place by and large. And the police had the tools to deal with that. So, using a martial law to deal with that should never have been done. In fact, when it was recently used illegally in South Korea, the punishment for the prime minister that did it was life in prison, because they take the violation of the civil liberties of every single South Korean very seriously. The punishment should absolutely rise to the crime. If you have taken the liberty away from every single citizen in your country, your liberty should be taken away too. And now Chief Justice Wagner, he's going to be, after saying that the Freedom Convoy was anarchy, he's going to be ruling on the federal government's appeal of 2 subsequent lower court decisions. Do you think they're going to get a fair shake out of Chief Justice Wagner? I don't. And to say this is the second time in a week, I think Drea and I think it was David, maybe it wasn't David, talked about it on Friday. The Globe and Mail has said that they got their reporting wrong on the 215 alleged dead children at the Kamloops Indian Residential School. So fascinating that it's twice in 1 week. Of course, it's 5 years too late for normal people. And after normal people were canceled, called deniers, called genocide heirs, whatever, that finally 5 years later, when it's safe to do so, when other braver people have come out and taken the slings and arrows of being the first to tell the truth on this issue, here comes Globe and Mail sliding in behind saying, look at us, we've changed our minds. No, you just ran with a lie. And now reality piled in on you. And now it's popular to change your mind and safe for you to change your mind because of the work done by other people. So you're gonna. And we're all supposed to applaud you for it and trust you for it. When most of us see Globe and Mail as just a bunch of political opportunists, which is what I see them as. Let's do the cringe. I would like to do a flashback cringe. Oh, Olivia, I didn't do the wallet read. Do you want me to do it today or tomorrow? Okay, we'll do it right now. I'm very sorry. I should have done it when we came back from the break, but let's do it now. I just saw it as I scrolled to the cringe out of the corner of my eye. It's from our friends at Rumble Wallet. I'm sorry I'm getting to it so late in the show. We hear a lot about crypto, but here's the part most people miss. Crypto was created so you could actually own and control your money. After the 2008 financial crisis, Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So instead of a bank holding your money, delaying transfers, or limiting access, you're in control. And if you've ever had to wait for a transfer to clear, you've felt that problem. Now, fast forward to today, everyone's heard of crypto, but getting started still feels complicated. That's exactly why I use Rumble Wallet. It takes all that complexity and makes it simple. Choose what you want: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stable coins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. No complicated setup. It connects to MoonPay so you can use your credit card, bank card, or debit card and be up and running in minutes. And once you're set up, you can even support your favorite Rumble creators like me as I struggle today. So do this now. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description and download Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and you're in the game. In just a few minutes, you can go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some. I would like to just go from hearing about crypto to actually understanding it. But that's a me problem, not a you problem. All right, I got a couple of cringes. I've survived the show on my own. The first one from my friend Joe Warmington over at the Toronto Sun. Drag performers, a fire captain, a bylaw officer, and an independent journalist meet in a small town in Ontario outside of a library named after Timothy Findlay, which was hosting a drag queen storytime event Saturday, and tempers flared. So it's family-friendly drag queen storytime, which is obviously never true. Brock Township Public Library says it was a wonderful morning at drag queen story time, and there's like toddlers with these atrocious caricatures of women. Families enjoyed stories, songs, dancing with our special guests Lucy Flawless and Baby Bell Bell. The queens kept everyone entertained with their energy, humor, and engaging storytelling, creating a fun and welcoming experience for children and caregivers. Oh, Lord. After storytime, families had the opportunity to take photos and visit with the local firefighters and EMS who brought their vehicles for kids to explore. See, we've started, like, our emergency responders, police, firefighters, their debasement begins this month. Thank you to everyone who joined us for a program filled with reading, creativity, community, and fun. Thanks to Youth Pride Durham and Durham's Children's Aid Society for helping deliver this fabulous and much-loved program. The Children's Aid Society is supposed to protect children from exposure to sexualized materials. Instead, they're being exposed to the poison dart frog people, brightly colored, you know, blue hair. People beware. It's what we say during Pride Month. And then we've got this, I guess people showed up quite angry at the library. And Joe's got a story coming up. Good gracious. I'm already excited, but also disappointed. June, you know? Man, June, why? One more cringe, and then we'll get to the chat, so we'll wrap her up. This is a flashback to 2022. Pam Damoff, she's no longer an MP, and you'll be grateful for it after seeing this video. You're going to want to jump out of your skin. It's just such an embarrassment. It's from 2022. You know what? I'm not even going to set it up. You guys just watch.
Honourable member for Oakville North Burlington. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Vaginas and vulvas are a source of strength, empowerment, and pleasure. Yet throughout our lives, we've been taught that the terms vulva and vagina do not have a place in polite conversation.
They don't.
That's one more way that the bodies of over half the world's population are stigmatized, sexualized, and objectified. With the recent news in the United States regarding Roe versus Wade, conversations about sexual and reproductive health are more important than ever, and it starts here on Parliament Hill. We need to reclaim space in health, research, politics, policy making at the doctor's office to celebrate the power of vulvas and vaginas. It's 2022 and we shouldn't be embarrassed or ashamed to talk about our bodies. Join me, the MPs from Winnipeg Centre, Saanich Gulf Islands, Shefford, Senator McFedrin and Action Canada as we jointly host a celebration on May 31st to reclaim the conversation and celebrate vulvas and vaginas as powerful and important.
I can't believe she read that with a straight face. These old bra burners just gross me right out. Ma'am, we just had Mother's Day. I think we know what our parts can do. Thank you. We can't say that this should have been like rolled into Women's Day because anybody can be a woman, even if you've got a wiener, apparently, with the Liberals. But this is what they wasted our time with. This is what they continue to waste our time with. These are not serious people. Like, our House of Commons is supposed to be an important place. It's the people's place of business. And we've got, I'm going to say it on TV. This lady celebrating Vagina and Vulva Day. Because they're powerful. And yet, Eastern Canada continues to re-elect them. Ask me why we want to leave. Stuff like this. Stuff like this, for sure. All right. Yeah, that did make me cringe. But really, when she said it should not be mentioned in it, or what did she say? It comes from a time when it shouldn't be mentioned in polite conversation. Yeah, it's still true, definitely still true. Also shouldn't be mentioned in the House of Commons. Like, also very true. Take me back to those days. Take me back to those days when, like, the Flintstones slept in separate beds. That's what I want. Okay, let's do a couple of the chats. We'll wrap the show. I did it all by myself today, and I even went over time. So, P. Schofield 10, regular viewer of the show. He's our American friend who actually came to our birthday party in Calgary. Hey, Ms. Sheila, PMITBCOSIHEH. I will send you an email with the meaning. Okay. Regular viewers of the show know that I struggle with acronyms. I don't know why. My brain needs to read a word and say a word, but ask me to read letters, forget it. I just can't. If you watch me read out the like Pride acronym or the like Rainbow People acronym, the Poison Dart Frog People acronym, I have to slow right down. Like, I got to put her in, I take my brain out of race car and stuff it into turtle, if you know what I mean, because I just can't read them all. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's nonsensical. I need a word. The Catholic Crusader 8267 gives us $13.99 and agrees with me that June is the month of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. That's the month that it's dedicated to, not to hedonism and weirdos and sexualizing children and poor lifestyle choices. And anyway, God have mercy on these people. They says also not evil pride. God bless what's left of Canada. Yeah, pride is a sin. Have we all forgotten that? It's what caused the angels to fall. Okay, that's the show for today. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming to my religious TED Talk. We'll see everybody tomorrow, where I will have a guest host, my friend Lise Merle from Regina, Saskatchewan. Thanks to everybody who pitched in. Thanks to Olivia for hosting the show. All of you who do the very free thing of engaging with our content, sharing our content, it helps us get higher in the algorithms. The more engaged with we are, the more the platforms serve it up to more eyeballs. So That's a great way that you can help us, and it doesn't cost you a dime. I will see you guys tomorrow. I promise I'll do a better job tomorrow. And as always, if you find us offensive, maybe don't find us at all.
Carolyn Finlay's victory in BC, and what does it mean for your federal party and BC politics in the future?
Well, I congratulated Leader Finlay on her victory. I want to thank her for her very public and consistent support of me and my leadership over many years, something she did emphasize during her leadership race. And I think that what British Columbians want from her leadership is what she ran on and what Canada needs. We need an affordable British Columbia with safe streets, where the economy is self-reliant. We need to lock up criminals, cut back on the cost of government, reduce deficits, ban drugs, support parental rights, all things that Caroline Finlay ran on, and I hope that she succeeds.